96.5 The Fox, Bismarck Mandan's classic rock station with free beer and hot wings every weekday morning, and a very cool event happening this Friday through Sunday. The Bismarck Art and Galleries Association welcoming Ron Campbell, best known for his work with the Beatles, but also Scooby-Doo and the Smurfs. And Ron, nice enough to join us on the phone. Ron, how are you?
I'm great, Matt. Thank you for having me here.
Now, you're going to be in Bismarck in just a few days. You were the director of the Beatles' 1960s Saturday morning cartoon, the animator of the film Yellow Submarine. How did you get involved with the Beatles at kind of the height, really, of their career?
Well, I guess it began when I was 5 years old, and I loved Tom and Jerry cartoons, and I became obsessed with making drawings that seemed to move and live and breathe. And so I was on the leading edge of animation in Australia, and when the time came to do cartoon entertainment films for American television, I was there and doing Crazy Cat and Beetle Bailey and Popeye stuff. And because of that work, I was picked to direct the Beatles TV cartoon show. Later on, I came to the United States, and the studio in London that was producing the Yellow Submarine got into a little production difficulty and needed some extra help, and sure enough, I was called in and asked if I could animate about 12 minutes of the film to help out in the production, and I was able to do that, and let's see, those 12 minutes took about 8 months to do.
Is it true that when you were approached about doing the animation for the Beatles that you didn't know who they were?
Yes, I'm afraid to say it was the truth. I got the telephone call in the middle of the night. Ron, from El Brodax, we'd like you to direct this television show we're going to be producing later on in this season. And I said, Al, what is the show? And he said, it's the Beatles. Gee, Al, I don't think insects make very good TV characters for kids, you know? And he laughed and told me that it was actually a rock and roll group, which had gone right over my head. I was involved in making cartoon films. I wasn't taking much notice of popular music at that moment. Although I was young enough, I should have been listening, but I wasn't. There you are.
Joined on the phone by Ron Campbell, animator for the Beatles and a whole slew of other cartoons. He will be at the Bismarck Art and Galleries Association this Friday through Sunday. Now, when you were animating the Beatles Saturday morning cartoon in Yellow Submarine, how much involvement did John, Paul, George, and Ringo have in that process?
They had a critical involvement. They gave us their music to use. But other than that, that was it. They didn't do the voices. They didn't contribute in any way. So, but the music was all we really needed, you know? And that's what the public wanted from them anyway.
When you first did the animations and you were first involved in the Saturday morning cartoon and then the Yellow Submarine, did you ever hear some criticism from the Beatles at all? Did they like what you guys had done?
Well, I didn't get criticism directly from them, but I did hear that they were not entirely thrilled with the television cartoon show, which was a very low-budget affair, and nobody in those days really knew how to make money out of children's television. And I understand Ringo was heard to have said after coming out of his first screening of the television show, saying to his colleagues there, they made me the idiot. I'm not sure how annoyed he was, but he was far from an idiot, of course, in real life. And I think they were surprised. They were expecting the same kind of animation for their feature film, but of course the feature film had a gigantic budget compared to the television show, and spectacular designs by Hans Eidelman. And I think they were surprised when they finally came to see the feature film, and really liked that.
Now, obviously, the Fab Four has seen your work, but did you ever get the chance to talk to them about it in person?
No, I didn't. I was always I was in Australia when I was doing the television show, and I was in Hollywood when I was doing the Yellow Submarine, so I never got to talk to them at the time, I'm afraid.
How do you think the Beatles cartoons differed from other cartoons of that time period?
Well, it was the first show that featured a rock and roll group that was actually working and functioning at the time. And there are certain risks associated with making a show based on people that are still around. You know, I mean, there can be awfully bad news come out of the people. That can be a problem for producers of the TV show. But it was a groundbreaking television show, and the ratings of the show reflected that in a sense. there was a 60 share sometimes for the TV show, which means every 100 television sets that were turned on in America, 60 of them were focused on the Beatles television show. So the children of America came out by the millions to watch the TV show. And on the Yellow Submarine itself, the film, Yellow Submarine, you can only say that it captured the spirit of the 60s. It was one of the few films of the 60s that is still talked about and still seen. It was a gigantic film, a historic film.
Joined on the phone by Ron Campbell, animator for the Beatles, and a whole bunch of others. He will be at the Bismarck Art and Galleries Association this Friday through Sunday. Now, outside of working with the Beatles, you spent 50 years animating everything from the Smurfs to George in the Jungle to Sesame Street. What would you say is your most memorable project that you worked on?
I think my most memorable project was actually The Big Blue Marble, which was a show that I worked on, produced and directed for some 4 years in the middle of the 70s. We won a Peabody and an Emmy for that. But people often ask me, who was your favorite character, you know? And my only response to that is, how do you choose between Scooby-Doo and Smurfette? How do you choose between George of the Jungle and Fred Flintstone? You just can't do it. They're all wonderful characters, and I was blessed in my life to always be able to work on shows that I really, really liked. The Rugrats, Ed, Ed and Eddie, just a lifetime of fun. And on top of all that, I can't ever remember waking up in the morning and saying, oh, damn it, I've got to go to work today. I loved every minute of it.
Let's talk about the event happening in Bismarck Friday through Sunday, the Bismarck Art and Galleries Association. What exactly will you be doing when you appear in Bismarck?
Well, I'll be painting. I'll be talking with the audiences that watched many of the shows that I worked on. And above all, we're selling paintings that I do based on those television shows that I now do in my retirement. It's a lot of fun. Come on down and chat with me, and we'll have some fun.
What led you to do this tour of the country showing off your work like this?
What led me to do it was simple fear of death, which happens to every old man that retires unless he does something else, you know.
How is it being out on the road? How is it different than sitting in a studio animating?
Well, the big difference is the audience, when sitting in the studio animating, the audience is just a bunch of numbers on a sheet of paper. Coming out like I do now, doing paintings and meeting people, and actually meeting the audience, and that has been revelatory.
Joined on the phone by Ron Campbell. He will be at the Bismarck Art and Galleries Association this Friday through Sunday. Now, Ron, the last question that I have is, for the first time in a very, very long time, there are no more Saturday morning cartoons on network TV. As an animator who worked on all of these big, big shows and had huge success because of it, how does it make you feel that kids now, if they don't have cable, can't see cartoons?
I didn't even know that was possible, that a kid could never see a cartoon. That's appalling. However, it is also true that children can watch cartoons 24 hours a day now, so maybe that's too much cartoons. Maybe it was there was something rather nice about the cartoons being confined to Saturday mornings, a special time for children when their parents were trying to sleep in and they could spread their Cocoa Puffs all over the living room floor watching cartoons on a specific time in the week. The world rotates on its axis. It changes every day, and I guess that's just part of the changes. And now the cartoons are all made by computers. Well, you know, I dropped my pencil in 2008, and ever since then, all the cartoons seem to be done by computers. Well, that's the young guys can have their cartoons and make them the way they see fit.
Which, with the new technology and computers, what type of animation do you prefer? Do you still enjoy the stuff that you did that was, you know, the manual labor sort of thing, or do you like the computer animation that's happening now?
Well, Matt, I love some of the computer animation, but I personally would not like to be working on it. I'm just a dinosaur with a pencil in his hands. You know what I mean?
Ron Campbell will be in Bismarck coming up this Friday through Sunday. Bismarck Art and Galleries Association. Go see him, watch him do his work. Ron, it is an honor to talk to you, and I hope to see you this weekend.
It's been a pleasure, Matt. Thank you so much.